So listing the first 4 years achievements of Ajimobi. Today, the first one I'm going to be talking about is the infrastructural revolution. The construction and infrastructural, infrastructural modernization. I can call it modernization. Why? Because there are some projects that were not that are not usually seen in our state called Oyo State. All this planting of flowers. When Ajimobi came with planting of flowers, he actually constructed roads in his first 4 years, and he topped it up. Let me say it was like a topping or an icing on the cake, which was the beautifying the states and let me say major areas in the state, because those things no reach our own side. Even though the local government's chairman actually, the appointed local government, they actually did some good things as well to the people, to the places that are actually occupied by low income earners as well, where I used to live back then. We are in the area where my family house is located. So in short, I don't promise to renovate and construct road networks in Oyo State. He also promised to reconstruct the ones that has been existing as well, and also improve the beautification of the state. And it actually did, and if we're not going to lie, that actually attracted a lot of local and foreign investors. Let me mention some of the roads that were constructed. The restoration bridge at the Awolowo Bodija Secretariat bridge, construction of flyover bridge at Mokola Ibadan, and that flyover bridge was locked at a point in time toward the end of Ajimobi's second term, but don't let us go there yet. Restoration bridge at Awolowo Bodija Secretariat bridge, construction of flyover bridge at Mokola Ibadan, construction of motor garage at Temidiri on Ibadan Ife Road and Bodo, construction of 110-kilometer Ibadan Circular Road, dualizing two major roads in Ibadan. That's the Ibadan interchange challenge new garage interchange road. That network of, what's the name, around Orita. When you pass Orita going to new garage, there is that network of one going to Iwo Road leading to that place is just there, sha. As well, the Eledugbe Onireke Jericho Road as well, that one leading to Aleshinoye, as well as the ones entering and as well as the roads leading to Oyo, Ogbomoso and Ishenyin as well. And as well the Shaki Road too, even though that Shaki Road was done, well, I don't want to go into that. Those are second term things, so I don't want to go into that yet. And there, overall there has been construction of road throughout the what's the name, throughout the 33 local governments in the state. So the Ikoyi Express Junction to Taki Palace at Ogbomoso Grammar School route as well. I think that was started. That construction was started but wasn't finished. It wasn't finished until Ajimobi was leaving the office in second term. Can you imagine? Just a junction, no? And that Taki was the name. It was just a roundabout. Just a roundabout. I think the roundabout has been there. I don't know. I've forgotten if the roundabout has been there. But it's just a roundabout with some. The road wasn't even that bad as well. So just the what's the name, Sha? It was just a roundabout, and they renovated a roundabout for 4 years. But well, that's one of the downsides of his government as well. Planting of flowers everywhere. The design of the traffic light at Challenge Mokola roundabout. The Challenge roundabout. Then Premier Hotel, Oyo Road, Awolowo Bodija, Libre, and all this side. So in short, let's go to employment opportunities and fair workers emoluments in Ibadan. When Ajimobi came in, he came with this YESO scheme, which employed over 20,000 youths. But the fact is that the what's the name? The YESO scheme wasn't sustainable, because the scheme was becoming wishy-washy toward the end of his second term as well. So Ajimobi shared buses, he shared keke, napep, he shared bikes and all this. the normal Nigerian politician empowerment things, the common empowerment things. It's all well and good. The people who enjoy it are not going to say it's a bad thing. Of course, it was good, and it was fine as well. There's provision of free health services to more than 300,000 people. They said 300,000 people. We don't know, but the point was that during Ajimobi's first term, the healthcare system in Oyo State it's improved. You see, one thing a lot of people don't know is that, they think if the government is working, people won't know. Of course, people will know. If a system is working, even from the way the workers are going to be addressing you, they are going to be treating you. I swear, I know how things were back then. The way they will be addressing you, you also will know that no, there has been a system change. You will know there's been a system change. Not when they haven't collected the salary and a nurse want to give you injection on your buttocks. Once you see you are shaking, slap you on your bola. All these things. So in short, as well, we provided a free cure and retroviral stores for the people who have HIV/AIDS as well. Delivery of medical equipment to healthcare sectors as well. The healthcare sector was actually improved during Ajimobi times, but during the second term tenure, wishy-washy again. So the restoration of peace and security within the state. Ooh, this is it. When Ajimobi came in his first 4 years, Ajimobi did well as the governor, and when it comes to security, peace was totally restored back in the state until it was around 2014 when this 1 million boys issue came. Was it 2014 or 2013? It was 2013. This 1 million boys issue came, and all these Elegun people as well, they also started doing their shit, and that was when Ajimobi got some Egungun arrested. When they say Egungun be careful, forget to any Egungun that is not careful during Ajimobi's time. Egungun were locked in jail. They were locked in cells, but just to keep what's the name? Operation Bust. Operation Bust was busting every illegal back then. There was a Egungun festival that got my ghetto destroyed. They're like more than 100 houses. The roof of over 100 houses was destroyed. Then they were throwing stones, what's the name? You will be in your room like this, and you will see a broken bottle breaking through the roof of your house, breaking the ceiling to fall on your bed. I'm telling you, that was how terrible Ibadan was then. During the, and since then, the Egungun festival has really been restored to something that has really been peaceful, even though there are still some other violent Egungun celebrations, but it was brought to the minimal level. Armed robbery totally annihilated. Not that it doesn't exist, but it was brought to the minimum rates back then. And as well, back then in after Ajimobi won his election as the second term governor back then in 2017. That was when in 2017, the 1 million boys issue came up again, and he had to battle them. He conquered them. He chased them away, and there was nothing anymore like 1 million boys anymore. That was that for security in the states. But I'm going to come back on the downside of security in the state in his second term. So as well, progress in the education sector of the states. Of course, education actually progressed in the states. There is infrastructural development and infrastructural improvements in the education sector of the states. Classes were constructed, chairs were given to the schools. A better learning environment for the people, man. I can remember back then where we were in Lagilu Grammar School back then. You know, when we wouldn't have chairs, and we will be sitting on, we put red blocks together. You know, anybody who attended Lagos Grammar School, that was school 3 back then. Back then in 2005, 2004, 2005 times. You know, 2005. You know, that was 2005, 2006. By 2006, 2007. You know, yes, 2006, 2007. You know, some old classes has been renovated, and chairs were supplied. Then we used to put, what's the name, together. We used to put red blocks together to sit on. You know, put some other red blocks together to place our books on and write and take our notes in classes. But you know, that has already been fixed to some extent. During Akala times, I'm not going to lie, we can say, okay, Akala is one of the most criticized governors in our state, but Akala did that. When it comes to educational infrastructures, Akala did a lot. Might be having issues with the workers, but educational infrastructure, Akala did so well. Ajimobi also took that education infrastructure to the next level in its first 4 years as well. But in the second 4 years, culture and tourism, you know, the renovation of Agodi Gardens, you know, cultural day, when the school children or the school pupils have to wear their cultural dresses, or their traditional dresses in late hours. So that's that for that. Then in the agricultural sector, you know, Ajimobi did so well in the agricultural sector. You know, they provided tractors to farmers as well. You know, and several other things. You know, a lot of youths are trained to farm. You know, there was this farming scheme that Ajimobi said they were going to initiate, even though we didn't hear anything about it anymore. That they want to start a shea butter farm, that they want to start shea butter production, that the farming and the harvesting and the processing and everything, and they were going to be exporting it to foreign countries, and that is going to generate income for the state, or the revenue for the state as well. Another one was that Ajimobi said they are going to be exporting cassava to China. Well, we didn't hear anything about that till the end of his tenure as well. You know, Ajimobi, when Ajimobi wants to do something, you know, you first of all, you know, paraphrase it, buttress it, explain it to you so that you can understand. You know, it might not be ready to do it in the next 2 years, but you know, if we first of all let you know about it, he would do some and he wouldn't do some. So that's Ajimobi for you. You know, almost everyone, not every you can't touch everything. So back to let's address Ajimobi's second term as a governor in the states. Ajimobi's second term is not as good. Everybody knows that. And if you say, yeah, not everybody, come on. Everybody knows that Ajimobi's second term is not as good as his first term. Of course, second term is supposed to be a continuation and maintenance of the things we've done in first term. But no, reverse is the case for Ajimobi. No. In the second term, infrastructural development, infrastructural evolution, you know, infrastructural development wasn't really that good. You know, he didn't start working on infrastructural things early until around 2016, 2017. He won the election for his second term back then in 2015 to 2016. You know, not really much was done. Nothing really actually was done. Nothing really actually was done in the infrastructural sector. So until 2017, when it was 2017, you know, there was a lot of demolitions. You know, I'm not blaming him for that. Anybody that his house has to be demolished for the state has to be demolished. You know, and that person is not having all the legal things to defend his property and all these things. You know, we can't blame the government for that. In 2017, there's a lot of demolitions and there is a lot of preparations for infrastructural developments, but you know, nothing was achieved as well back then in 2017. Last time 2017 was when these At least I can see that very well. Apart from what I read in the news, I could see that with my eyes, and several other projects as well. Bus stop to Bashoron to Idiape, best way to down to Iwo Road. The construction of that road was the construction of that road took 2 years. Back then in 2017, they started the construction. When they started the construction, was it in 2017? It was in 2016. Yes, it was in 2016. 2016. It was in 2016. They started the construction of that road at the end of 2016, and I was there when Ajimobi came to give his speech at the bus stop back then. Back then in 2016, I guess. So the construction of most of these roads, when they started, they were half done. They were half done, and they were left until Ajimobi lost his election in 2019. Can you imagine? Most of the projects, a lot of projects in the state that has been left for 2 years uncompleted, untouched. All the excavators and all the caterpillars have been removed from the site of construction. Everything was returned and everything were completed maybe like within 3 weeks to a month after he has lost the election, and it is remaining like few months for him to leave the office as the governor. So in terms of infrastructure development, Ajimobi didn't really do much, or didn't really do well in his second term. That's number one. And as well, most of these roads, people were sniffing dust. If you wear white clothes to any of these roads that were getting constructed, then that white clothes might turn brown before you go home, because there's dust everywhere. Uncompleted projects, uncompleted roads. What's the name? That bus stop to Iwo Road, what's the name? There is a lot of dust in front of the dust, mud, waters. People can't even, like, they were dualizing the road, but people can't even walk conveniently on the road, because nobody would want to pass inside the mud. And the road served no one. Like, the road was even worse for about 2 years before it was eventually finished in 2018, and most of them were still even abandoned in 2018, and they were constructed in 2019 after he lost his election to the Senate as well. That's that for infrastructural development in the second term in office. Like, most of the infra, he didn't do much. That's number one. And the ones he did, during his time, those things actually inflicted pains on people, because those things were not done when they were supposed to be done. It took more time than necessary. So those projects took more time than necessary. So it inflicted pains on people instead of comfort. Instead of better life. It puts too much pressure on them, unnecessary pressures, unnecessary stress on the people. So about the employment opportunity and workers and emoluments, there's really no, the ESO scheme was falling apart as well. The ESO scheme was falling apart. Most of all these things were blamed on recession. I maybe blamed all these things on recession, but there was an economic recession back then in 2012, and it performed well. There was economic recession in 2016, and since then, has been lamenting on the economic recession as the reason for most of the things that he didn't do or he couldn't do well. This same the economic recession Nigeria is battling with right now is worse than that of 2016, and Seyi Makinde is still doing work, and Seyi Makinde has alleviated the people of Oyo State from a lot of the pains that Ajimobi's impact has actually caused them. He might not have been able to do much more or do a lot of new things. Of course, he has done some new things, but he might not have been able to do a lot of new things, but he has been able to eliminate the pains that Ajimobi's policies and decisions has caused the people. Yeah. So let's go to, for employment, the employment aspect was stagnant, almost stagnant throughout the almost stagnant throughout the second term, was the name. You know, a lot of employed government staffs were fired as well, and you know, there's no employment of no employment scheme was initiated, except for the agricultural, was the name, except for the actual agricultural scheme that they brought, and the agricultural scheme as well wasn't sustained. You know, they only talked about it, and we're going to do this, we're going to do this farm, we are going to do this and that. You know, they just talk about it, you know, like a meager thing. So it wasn't really that serious. So it wasn't really that serious in its second. So few healthcare services in the states, or healthcare services in the states was worse. It was worse, like terrible. So healthcare services in the states was worse, and you know, the hospitals, they lack equipment, they lack drugs. Not only that, you know, do you know hospital closes by 2 in your states? I don't know if that is the same in other states too, but hospital closed by 2 in your states. I don't know where they are doing that. I don't know where they are doing that. Even I'm talking of first time visitation. I'm talking of first time visitation, not when if you are given appointment by a doctor or something, you know. But well, that's for healthcare. Healthcare wasn't really that what's the name, you know, the hospitals are dilapidated, you know, the hospitals were not functioning, they are not having enough doctors. I went to adeyemi someday for a rash on my shoulder. You know, they were asking me to, they said they don't have a dermatologist, and that's one of the biggest hospitals and one of the hospitals with the highest prestige, state government hospitals with the highest prestige in Oyo State. Adeyemi, they said they don't have a dermatologist. So they have to refer me to UCH. I got to UCH. They are telling me that their dermatologist is in Kenya. I should come back in 2 months. Are you? But well, that's that for healthcare services. Let's talk about the restoration of peace and security. Well, about the restoration of peace and security, well, things reverse was the case in Ajimobi's second term. You know, things were not really unconstitutionally, things were not that good in Ajimobi's second term in terms of peace and security. And the reason is because I don't know the reason. I don't know, but maybe he just relaxed on his efforts in pushing the state further. No one knows. But talking about the crisis that happened after the coronation of his appointed 38 obas or something, 38 obas or 40 obas that he appointed to be obas, while and promoting the Olubadan of Ibadan land to imperial majesty. You know, a lot of riots actually came up as well. You know, there was a time Olubadan wanted to coronate some Mogajis, and you know, some thugs actually invaded that just after the coronation of that of those 38 obas. So Olubadan wanted to coronate some Mogajis, and some thugs invaded that ceremony. Barrister Sharafaddin Ali, his car was shot. His car's windscreen was shot as well. You know, and a lot of incidents happened that day. Let me say a lot of harms were caused that day. You know, no life was lost actually, but that situation has been alleged to have been caused or been carried out, or that operation has been alleged to be carried out on the order of the governor. Even without the allegation safe gone, who are you going to suspect at that point in time? But well, whomever, Ajimobi gave a press release that they are going to fish out the people who are behind that incident, but we don't see anything. After that, let's talk about the unity group, the expulsion of the unity group from the party. So that was when he started this problem with the unity group in the party, the unity group and the Lamists in the party. When all this fracas started, You know, they had a lot of fights, and you know, the Ajimobi's faction of the APC party, they were using thugs against the Unity group and the Lamists. So what's the name? That's almost the same. That's no difference to what happened during Akala's tenure as well, between Akala and the Teslim Folani. A party crisis, internal party crisis, which led to the death of Ilewuyoma. It's just the same. It was just the same thing that happened during Ajimobi's second term as well. Ajimobi and versus the Unity Group and Lamis. So it was almost the same thing, and it involved political violence, and it involved violence and violent disruptions of meetings as well. The likes of Barrister Bayoshitu and Dakbolam, you know, they came on camera to say Ajimobi sent thugs after them, and there hasn't been any defensive press release or statement from the governor that he is not responsible for that, you know, and no any of his aides has come out to say that is not true or something like that. So that's that about the security. And apart from that, the general state security as well went on. You know, the state wasn't that secured as that of first term. You know, just a little difference compared to the time of Akala. And when the election was fast approaching, come on, you know, everything went on rampage. You know, everything went on rampage. Oyo State went back to the days of 2011 before Ajimobi came, despite that Ajimobi is now the governor, you know. So there was no difference. The security of Oyo State in the second 4 years of Ajimobi, I don't want to say it's even worse than that of Akala's time. Maybe it was because Ilewuyoma was killed during Akala's time, you know, and Ilewuyoma being a popular and a public figure was why that actually exploded everywhere. Which, of course, whether he's a public figure, nothing is worth a human's life. But then Ajimobi's time too, well, almost the same thing. So as well, in terms of security as well, Oyo State recorded the highest electoral violence in 2019, and this was confirmed by Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò of Yoruba Land, Chief Gani Adams. You know, electoral violence was brought to the minimum in 2019, and in Oyo State had the highest electoral violence in Oyo State. You know, of which and even before that, there were what's the name, political assassinations as well before the election. You know, a House of Assembly honorable was assassinated in the second 4 years of Ajimobi, the second term of Ajimobi, and as well during the governorship election fracas, Sugar was killed. Olatoye Sugar, honorable Olatoye, popularly known as Sugar, he was killed during the election violence as well. You know, that such kind of a thing didn't happen back then in 2015. So Ajimobi's second 4 years was in terms of security, scrap. You know, the strength of Oyo State security was scrap. It was bad. The security was bad in Oyo State. The state of security of Oyo State was bad. You know, let's talk about the education sector. Well, we don't need to talk much about the education sector. The education sector collapsed under Ajimobi in the second 4 years. Free education was totally eliminated and eradicated. People were paying, what's the name? School pupils were paying school fees. Of course, that was what they didn't pay maybe in the last something years that the state has been established. They started paying school fees 3,000 naira. Well, that's, you know, I would have been able to justify that if there has been any improvement in their learning environment or what they are actually learning as well. But there's no improvement. So they were collecting the money, right? Now Seyi Makinde has removed that money, and the education sector is still running well like it was running. So, and there's no difference, which means the 33,000 naira, I can categorize it as extortion. Even though nothing is free in this world, of course they have to pay. But the point was that almost every governor has been able to run the state successfully, and even him himself, in his first 4 years, he was able to run the state successfully without scrapping, without scrapping, without scrapping the free education, scheme and on or program, right? So in the second 4 years, no improvement, no anything. He said they should be paying 3,000 naira, and you know they were paying, but there's no improvement. It's of no use. It makes no difference. If it has made some difference now, you know, I would have been able to justify it with anything. And then talking about the issue with Lautech constituted authority thing. Lautech went on a how many months strike? A year and 2 months strike. A year and 2 months strike. A year and 2 months strike. And between 2015 to 2015 to 20 between 2015 to 20, let me see, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, between 2015 to 2019, Lautech went on a strike that's an aggregate of a year 8 month strike. A year 8 month strike aggregate. There was a 2 month strike back then in 2 weeks strike back then in 2015, the first part of 6 months of 2015, and that was when examinations are cancelled. You know, you get to the examination, your examination center like this, your exam center, and they will tell you there is strike. Then you have to go back home. That's happened. That was a two-week strike, you know, followed by another 1 month or 2 month strike back then. No, a month strike. That was back then in 2015 as well. Followed by another 2-week strike toward the end of the year in 2015. That's about 2 month strike. In 2015 alone, 2016 was slammed with 9 month strike, 8 months and a half strike. So with few weeks into 2017 as well. The strike lasted few weeks in the beginning of 2017. That was around 23rd, was it 23rd or 25th of January 2017, from April to January 20. Is it April? Is it April? Yeah, I think from March to January 2016 to January 2017. That was when the Latex 9 month strike lasted. That was how well the Latex 9 month strike lasted. After the students resumed in January, you know, they had an exam in February 2017, and after the exam, the exam ended in March 2017, and they went on another strike, another 6 month strike, making it how many months like that? Making it how many months? That's another 6 months with the 9 months, making 15 months strike. You know, making 15 months strike, and you know there are more consequences. You know that I don't want to be going into the details. You know, because of time. Several consecutive strikes as well in 2017, toward the end of 2017, after the 6 month strike. No, there was no strike in 2017 anymore after the 6 month strike. 2018, a month, 2 months, no, like a month strike, everything aggregated together. You know, that's like going to 16 to 17 month strike. Like there's like 16 month strike. That's like 16 month strike. That's like a year, 4 months or so, if I calculate well. But you know, I think that's not too accurate. But I know I can say confidently that it is more than 15 month strike. In 4 years, 16 month strike. 16 month strike. That is a year and 4 months out of. Come on. We automatically, a 5 years course or a 4 years course, a 5 years course is now automatically 2 years approximately, 7 years approximately. But well, let's leave that aside. That's that for the educational sector. Let's talk about culture and tourism. Culture and tourism, it continued like usual, but the Agodi Garden wasn't taken care of as the first 4 years. And but things were deteriorating there. The agricultural sector, maybe talked about improving the agricultural sector, but the effect wasn't felt. The employment wasn't really taking a big turn in the state to make any impact. And as well, the agricultural sector, they only talked about it. The implementation, we have allocated this amount of acres of land, this and that, but nobody sees anything. So that is that for agriculture. Let's talk about politics in Oyo State.